followers, welcome back to my channel and greetings from home. I hope y'all are doing well out there. And Happy New Year to all y'all. Welcome to 2022. And on this episode of Truckin It, I've heard there's a bunch of new training standards going into effect for CDL holders. These new standards mean that instead of just getting your permit and then getting your license once you pass a bunch of tests, you now actually have to go to class. So, for you new guys out there who are just getting ready to get your license, let's get started. And this is kind of reminiscent about how I first got my CDL. Back in August of 2009. Because they say that cheating is so widespread on these license tests now, especially with the recent incident that happened in Colorado, that they're now making it the law. That not only do you have to know English, but that you now have to go to school. Welcome back to my channel. Greetings from home. I hope y'all are doing well out there. And right now, we need to talk about the training standards that are coming up in 2022 and how you, as a future driver, can prepare. I'm Trucker Zach Bell, and this is the first episode of Truckin It for 2022. And as you can see, I'm at home in my studio. Yes, I got a Christmas tree up back there, and that's going to be up more than likely year-round. Just because I don't have it plugged in, though. So, the new training standards. For most of y'all, you're just going to breeze through them. To be quite honest. Because, well, there are a lot more topics and a lot more things for the instructors to cover and a lot more stuff that's going to be on the test. Preparing now for these new standards will help you get an edge on someone who has not studied and who has not gotten ready. So the first things first, I want to make sure that whatever you do for that first job, for that first class, or whatever that you're in, that you're good and ready for it. So, if you've decided a CDL is right for you, now's the time to go get your permits, go get your DOT physical done, and go get your MVR in hand. Because during that first week of CDL school starting in February, you're now going to have to deal with a certified instructor who's going to ask for all that stuff. At least during the first week. You're going to have to deal with 31 different topics that are covered in your CDL study guide. Back in the day, in the early 2000s, many people only had 4 topics. These days, there's a lot more than 4. Especially in light of the incident where the guy got 110 years in prison because he didn't know how to go down a mountain. Because he wasn't trained for it. So, there's going to be a lot of range time and a lot of classroom time now. Some people from some states already had an edge up on it, on these new standards, because, well, that state, and yeah, it's a state that I got my CDL in, they had a little scandal that happened back in the early 2000s that led to the first training standards in the country, which consisted of the same 31 topics that are now going national for the study guide and for the tests and for the classroom theory part. And then you're going to have at least 100 that I know of, but don't quote me on it. Let's just say you're going to have hours and hours and hours behind the wheel of a big rig during your class. And you might have some simulator time as well, depending on what kind of class it is. So that way you're going to learn where the clutch pedal is, what it does, why there's a third pedal on some of these trucks nowadays, what a dual clutch automatic transmission is, or an AMT or DCT depending on your truck maker, or a DT in the case of Freightliner, which DT and DCT are short for dual clutch transmission anyway, and are part of the Detroit powertrain. You're going to learn things like how to back a big rig in between a set of cones, which is going to be part of your range time. You're going to learn that you're not just going to have to just glance at your rig. You're going to have to learn how to crawl underneath your rig to check the connection between the fifth wheel and the trailer, as well as to make sure that your differentials aren't leaking. Since obviously that happens to the best of us, me included. You're going to have to learn how to check your brake slack adjusters if you have a drum brake system like the majority of the trucks do on the road today. For those with disc brakes, you're going to have to learn how to check your rotors and calipers to make sure that the pad depth is of acceptable thickness and that the rotors actually are shiny, indicating the brakes are working. And that's just to name a few things that are going to be covered in your CDL school. So what kind of CDL school are you going to go to? Are you going to go to one of these big company-sponsored schools that, let's just say, is several hours from home? Or are you going to go to a school that's close to home? Well, I promise you there's advantages to the latter versus the former. They'll both offer you your CDL for low cost or free. Okay? But here's the difference. Do you really want to spend 27 hours on a Greyhound bus getting there and have to pay room and board? Or do you want to just go home to your family? I'm going to assume the latter. Because those Greyhounds do not, even the newer versions of the Greyhounds, do not have much in the way of leg room. And you want room to stretch. Flying ain't much better either unless you're flying in first class. And renting a car? Well, you don't know if the person before you had any illness or not, or if the car is even dependable, or if they just throw you into a junk clunker, especially with the vehicle shortage going on these days. So, get yourself ready now. Go, and like I said, get that stuff done. The physical, the DMV report, the permit. Perhaps even get your written test done if you can, so that you can focus on going through the classroom theory while everybody else is getting prepared for the written test. So that way you have that edge before you go to class. Then, once you get there, be prepared for several hours on the range each day. Several hours in the classroom each day as well. If you're stuck not getting home for some reason, I would strongly encourage you, before you go get your license, to get a couple weeks' pay saved up. Get an emergency fund going. So that way, if you have to get a bus ticket back home, or if you have to rent a car back home, or if you have to fly back home, or if you have to buy meals on the road, that you've got some cushion there to cover your expenses while you're going through this training process. And one last thing. I've been kind of struggling over the last couple weeks. And the reason is because my holiday pay wasn't that great this year. Thanks to where the holidays were, what kind of trips I was getting, etc. So I would strongly encourage you to go on to truckerzacksfanshop.com before you go to class and order yourself a t-shirt or 2 or 5, a tumbler, and a backpack or tote bag to carry your study materials in. So that way you have them before you take off for school and before February gets here. And in the meantime, have fun at school while you go and learn the whole process of getting your license. Let's make your best trip your next trip. Keep learning, keep thinking, and have fun as you begin your career as a new driver. Good luck on the tests. Good luck in the theory. Good luck on the range. And I'll see you on the next episode. Bye for now.